And hello, it's Charlie Vascellaro with Charlie Vascellaro's Baseball Emporium, and we are still reporting from Phoenix and Scottsdale, Arizona, from spring training in the Cactus League, where we've been having fun since it started back on February 22nd. And we're a couple of weeks into it now, so things are starting to pick up. My guest today is the esteemed Ralph Tyko, and we like to talk about baseball and life. And Ralph, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, Charlie. I look forward to this, and thank you for including me in your fine podcast.
Yeah, I've got some fun things to talk about since the last time we spoke, and I thought I would share it with you and our listeners. Had a great week, watching Cactus League ball games. I got to see, when we last spoke, I think it was Saturday the 4th, and now it's Saturday the 11th. And I went and saw, let me count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games since then, every single day of the week.
Wow, how nice. You're basking in the sun. The weather is broken down there. It's nice. Am I correct?
Yes. Oh, no, it's been getting better and better. So, and I had a lot of fun with a group this week. In addition to the baseball writing that I do, I also make some speaking presentations to different organizations. And one of them is the Rhodes Scholar Elder Hostel group, which is a series of groups. What Rhodes Scholar is, they call it Adventures in Lifelong Learning. So it is a continuing education program attended mostly by seniors, and they have different themes, for their vacations. And in this instance, baseball is the theme, and I had a bunch of Giants fans from San Francisco, 35 of them actually, come down to see games, and boy, did we have a good time. I'll tell you, I can't even tell you, I made 35 new friends, and it was a great feeling to be able to do that. So.
It's funny about baseball fans. We're all joined at the hip on some level. Can't explain it, but you could take people of different classes, financial situations, different creeds, religions, backgrounds, put them at the ball game, and they sit and chat for 2 minutes, and all of a sudden, it's like you've known them all your life. It's wonderful.
Yes,
baseball.
It's true. Everybody puts their differences. Yeah, they put their differences aside, whatever they may be, because I don't even know what our differences were. We were spending so much time enjoying the things we have in common, we never got around to our differences, which is a nice thing to be able to see. And
sometimes you find that your differences aren't that different. Anyway, it's just,
ketchup or mustard. Ketchup or mustard, I go for mustard.
Okay, well, I go for ketchup, young man.
Yeah, so we found out one of our differences. Yeah, we just found one out, didn't we?
Absolutely. Viva la difference.
Yes. I will tell you about some of the highlights of the games that we went to. And I think the most interesting game, you just said Viva la difference. The most interesting game I saw this week was the Giants against the Puerto Rican team that is playing in the World Baseball Classic. And this was not a tournament game. It was just an exhibition game. But it was absolutely fantastic. It was a seesaw battle. And the Puerto Rican team is really an all-star squad. They got Javier Baez and Francisco Lindor up the middle, which it doesn't get any better than that. At second and short.
Any major league team.
On any major league team. And they did not disappoint. They turned a spectacular double play where Baez went flying up in the air to catch the ball and got his foot on the bag and made the turn. And Carlos Correa was the third baseman. So this was a very loaded team. And it looked like they were going to win the game, of course. But in the ninth inning, with the Giants down by a run, Marrero, I'm forgetting his first name right now, who's a spring training invitee and also happens to be from Puerto Rico, hit a 2-run walk-off bomb to end the game and send the Giants and their fans home very happy. And it was, even though it's a spring training game, it was a spectacular finish. It was a sunny day, about 79, 80 degrees, and the ball went over the wall. The Puerto Rican fans had already been celebrating when the ninth inning started because they're a very boisterous group, and they had drums and noise makers and tambourines, and they were chanting and singing songs, and the ball was going over the wall. They were a little surprised because they thought they had won, and then they had lost.
Right. You know, I watched the game on MLB TV yesterday. That was the Colombians against the United States. And that game was very much like you described, very close, well played, terrific defense. In this case, Colombia has a great defensive outfield.
Was it Mexico? I thought was it Mexico? I didn't realize. Is there a team from Colombia? Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to just pay homage to the MLB TV program. You can, for about $25 a month, it amounts to during the season. You can virtually get every game during the season. It is every game played. They televise both home and away. So you've got all kinds of options to watch ball. Brings me back to when my team, the Giants of New York, left for San Francisco, and all we had was Les Kiter recreations of baseball games.
Many people in my group were talking about that. You know, these people like you, the Giants fans that were traveling on this Roadsteller trip, many of them were former New York Giants fans as well. And that topic came up, the idea of the recreated games with the making the bat noises and some of the depictions and descriptions that these guys would come up with. They would even add, you know, they would embellish a little bit and talk about foul balls and fans, you know, doing things that they obviously couldn't even see, which is kind of fun.
Les was very creative, as were all those guys that recreated ball, starting with Dutch Reagan back in the day would do just that. And they'd get wire reports, foul ball, another foul ball, ground ball out. They'd have to recreate what they thought was, you know, their imagination, what they thought the play was like,
and weave in the sponsors' messages while they're doing all that too, which is another art form. You know, being able to flip a sponsor's ad into a description of a play. You know, where they just drop the ad, and you almost didn't even notice they were doing that. So,
boy, there was an ad writer, a jingle writer in the 50s that wrote a thing on the advertising in baseball. There's another first pitch thrown. Well, the first pitch sponsor is Joe's Mechanics, and that's what it's come to in radio. Every play has something they can call and get somebody's word in there. It's become incredibly commercial, and it's a business.
Well, somebody's got to pay for the electricity, you know, so so we're able to hear all this stuff. And I got to agree with you about the MLB channel. It's basically the only channel I watch anymore.
You can, and they have the World Baseball Classic. And tell us something about that, Charlie. It's going on right now. Where did it originate?
Well, in the time since we last spoke, I think 2006 was the first one, and then they did it in 2009. And what they thought was going to be they thought it was going to be an every 3-year format, and it ended up being every 4 years. And so now they did one again in 2013, and this is the fourth one. And last year the Dominican Republic won, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Japan might have won each of the previous two, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I'd have to look back. But this week, since last we spoke, there's been some dramatic play in the World Baseball Classic, and the team from Israel, if you can believe this, swept through its bracket, and they are long shots, definitely long shots in this tournament, but they're playing like favorites, and they swept through Korea, Taiwan, and the Netherlands in the first round of bracket play to advance to the second round, knocking Korea, who was considered a powerhouse, out of the tournament. And Netherlands also advanced with Israel, so Taiwan and Korea are gone. But the Israeli team has been spectacular and exciting and very fun and interesting to watch. They have a mascot, which we talk about sponsorship and advertising. There's this toy called the Mensch on the Bench, which is a Hanukkah toy. That's the same thing as this elf on the shelf that's developed over the years for Christmas. It's something that's supposed to be watching the kids to make sure they behave, so that's when they know, that's how they get presents as long as they behave. So the Mensch on the Bench has become a mascot for the Israel team. And they have a little one, which is the toy like the kids have, but they also have a full-sized one where it looks like a guy in a costume or a big overstuffed doll, but he's part of the team. And you remember in the old days when teams had mascots on the bench like a midget or a dwarf, you know, and now they have the Mensch on the bench.
Speaking of the Giants, there was a giant pitcher in the 70s that had this big bear, and his name escapes me. This big stuffed bear that he carry with him on the bench and all over. I'll come up with his name.
Okay.
But mascots have always Mr. Met. When you think about it, the ultimate mascot, and how that caught on in a city like New York, who embraced lovable losers in the early Mets. Beyond surprise. I mean, this was a jaded team who had championship teams, the Yankees every year in the World Series, against the Dodgers sometimes. Every now and again, the Giants would be in there. This is a great tradition of baseball. They lose their two teams and then come back with the Mets and embrace lovable losers, the amazings. Quite surprising.
Well, in this instance, this idea of mascots that you talk about, I think it's very emblematic of the cohesiveness of this Israeli team. And I think this is one of the reasons they're having so much success, is they are very bonded. And they're bonded in their religious faith, which is huge. They're bonded in the fact that they're tremendous underdogs. I think that Israel has an association of being an underdog in general, and so they're rallying around this and their faith, and it's just been fantastic to watch.
Right, very, very heartwarming. I'm of Jewish faith, Jewish culture, if not. The religion doesn't particularly, never been a spiritual person from an organized religion sense. But, wow, you can't help but glow. I've got relatives in Israel, and the precarious position that they've been in for like 50 years.
So I think they're carrying all that with them in this tournament, is the point I'm trying to make. And it's evident in what's unfolding, you know, and it's a joy to watch. So I was watching.
And it brings back a little good-natured nationalism. We don't have to be at war to be against another country.
I would say in the sense that it can be fun. Yeah, that it can be something that you're proud of, and you can and share with your people. I was walking past a magazine rack here in Scottsdale the other night, and I saw Ike Davis was on the cover. Now, Ike Davis is playing for the Israel team. Ike Davis is Jewish. His father was Ron Davis, the pitcher, the relief pitcher for the Yankees. You might remember him. And the timing of this I thought was fantastic because I had been watching the games on TV and went out afterwards to get a drink somewhere. And as I'm walking down the street, I had this on my mind already. This idea of the Israel team was right at the front of my brain. And lo and behold, I turn and look, and there's Ike Davis in his uniform looking at me. So I thought it was, we're all is right in the cosmos, you know?
Baseball has a cosmos like that. We could bring up Craig Pearson, Dr. P, who we both knew, and it turns out we talked a little bit off the air. We both knew him very well. I grew up with him. He was my camp buddy, and he was the team doctor in spring training of both the A's and the Cubs. And we just got to remember him through the baseball gourds the other day. And
yes, well, he was an investor in a magazine that I worked for.
Did you work for
many
Diamond?
Years ago?
Diamond
yes,
magazine?
I worked for the Diamond. I was the research editor, and he was
sponsored a cable television show that I did through Craig, where I brought back in Northern California. I brought back New York luminaries, baseball luminaries, people like Leonard Cobbett, Charlie Fox, Charlie Silvera came in, Hank Sauer came in, did an interview, and Diamond Magazine sponsored it. We got these big old cardboard backdrops of Duke Snider and Willie Mays, and put them in the back.
Well, yes, they were on. Mays and Snyder were on some of our first covers. I think Mickey Mantle was on the first one. I can remember them all because we only had 9. And we went out of business. It was the year of the strike, unfortunately. But Mickey Mantle was on the first cover, and Willie Mays was on the second. 94.
94, okay.
Yeah, 94. When the strike struck in August of 94, it effectively put us out of business because we were mailing to season ticket holders at Major League ballparks all across the country. We had been granted licensing from Major League Baseball to use things like logos, and we were doing well. But when the strike hit, we stopped doing well because we lost everything. We had been giving away advertising in the beginning as a startup might do. But when it came time to start charging for advertising, the magazine had lost its audience because we had basically lost our product, which was Major League Baseball. And that kind of put us out of business. And, Dr. Pearson, Craig, used to sit in the office with us, and we would just sit there. I would sit with him all the time and talk about baseball. He was a joy to be around. And but we were in a kind of a sad state of affairs, because we were hoping that they would start playing again so we could get rolling again, and it never happened. The World Series was canceled, the season ended, and the magazine ended up folding up a couple of months later. We still had a few issues that were in the hopper that we got out, but it was all over shortly thereafter. The last issue we ever produced had Hank Aaron on the cover, and I remember we had a big debate about it in the conference room because it was 20 years since the anniversary of 7/15. And I was a big Hank Aaron fan. I wrote a biography of Hank Aaron a few years ago, and I wanted him to be on the cover. And we had another editor who was located in Washington, D.C., was one of our contributing editors, and he wanted Stan Musial to be on the cover. And I'll never forget this because we were having a conference call in the conference room on the speakerphone, and I was the youngest kid on the staff. I had just got out of college. And I lobbied and lobbied and lobbied for Aaron, arguing basically with my own boss to get Aaron on the cover. and I won. and I remember that when the magazine went out of business, I felt like it was the last great thing that I was able to do at the magazine was get Hank Aaron on the cover of our last issue.
Oh, what a terrific story that is. And I'm thinking that you could have had either one of those guys, and there really would be no argument. You know, if you'd lost that argument, you could understand why.
Yes, and he was slated to be on the next one. We had only moved him back one issue. The only problem was we never got that issue out.
That, in a way, that tells you something. Also, how to enrich the intensity of which you rooted when you go through something like that, because
yeah, no, it was a lot. It was a fun and spirited debate. We did not have hard feelings against each other about this. We just talked it out, and I think that the idea that the anniversary was coming from this very telling moment in baseball history is what really won the argument. You know, I just had to remind them about that. That's all.
Well, for those of you out there that are from the East Coast, Philadelphia in particular, Craig Pearson, the fellow we're talking about, rest in peace, Dr. P. His family ran a sports store. It's called Pearson Sporting Goods in Philadelphia. Incredibly popular in Philly. They did all the team uniforms for the A's were back in Philadelphia in the day, and the Phillies. The family has all these videos of Connie Mack coming into the store when they opened it up, and all the great Robin Roberts, the Pearson brothers, Red Pearson and his brother, luminaries in Philadelphia. We'd go to spring training and hang with these guys, and they outfitted the teams, fit them with uniforms, and so Craig has a lifetime of being around. They had a lifetime of being around the game, and he, like you and I, that's what our common denominator. We could talk baseball. We could do this for 4 hours if we had the time.
Well, yeah, one of the things, because we were busy going out of business, there wasn't a whole lot of work to do in the office at that time, but we still reported for our jobs. And so I would go in and I'd sit in my office. My office was the most fun office. I had all the games and toys that potential sponsors would send us. I had the early baseball computer games. I had a big crossword clock on my wall. I had bobbleheads and everything you can imagine. And so Craig liked to hang around, Dr. Pearson, in my office because it was kind of a hub of activity at the office. It was where people came to talk about baseball. And so that's what we did together.
Well, a quick Craig story. Craig was, again, a physician, and he treated Carl Hubble at the end of Carl's life. And
yeah.
I was talking to Johnny DeQuisto about this the other day, about unions and taking care of old players. This was back when he treated Carl Hubble, the king, the greatest pitcher in Giant history, except for Christy Mathewson maybe. But he was basically impoverished, living in a little apartment. Baseball didn't have pensions in those days, and certainly management didn't have any idea about taking care of their old players. Mickey Cochran, Carl Hubble, these guys would just be literally working for peanuts in the scouting department of the Giants was Hubble, and just never taken care of. So it goes to show you now things have turned a little bit around with the unions. Players today take a little more care of the players that came up yesterday and brought the game to where it is today. And I think baseball is to be commended. Certainly they don't do enough. There's organizations like BAT, which is Baseball Assistance Program, where they take needy folks that come to them for assistance, and they decide who gets money. This stuff should all be done by management.
Yeah, well, the Diamond was involved in that, and we still have a guy out here, Lou Klimchuk, who was our rep in that area. And Lou Klimchuk played for the Cleveland Indians.
Infielder with the A's.
Yes, and the Mets. And he was in our office, and he was our liaison between the magazine and Major League Baseball. I still see Lou out here all the time. He does a lot of things for BAT and the assistance team and the Alumni Association. That's what Lou does. Lou is in charge of those kind of things. And he's great at getting players to show up and make appearances.
He would be a wonderful guest on your show.
You know what? Good idea. Let's get him on. I will talk to him soon because he's an ageless wonder. I saw Lou Klimchuk about a week ago at a festival here in Scottsdale, and he looked the same as the day I met him, and which was back in the 1993. And he's in his 70s at least, but he looks like he's in his 50s. It's amazing the condition the guy is in. Even his face and his hair, everything looks exactly the same as the day I met him. But Ralph,
baseball will keep you young.
And that's what we do when we come out here for spring training. We return and drink from the fountain of youth. And, we're all born again with the new season. And I'm going to use that as our closing mantra today because I got to get dressed and go to the ball game. So let's pick up where we...
Boy, a young man.
Let's pick up where we left off. And I'll have a week worth of stories to tell you next week, okay?
That's terrific. I love this. Thank you very much for enriching the network, and we're having fun. That's the main thing.
You bet.
Fun. It shouldn't be getting done.
I'll try and get Lou on next week. We'll talk soon.
Terrific. We could reminisce some more about Craig, a personality in himself.
Oh boy, to say the least.
Yeah. To say the least. He went to Overbrook High School in Philadelphia, where he was a 3-letterman. He would have been a pro point guard in basketball.
In my recollection, he could have been a stand-up comic as well. He was a very funny guy, so that's what I recall about him.
He loved to laugh,
yeah.
And I'll ask you this, Charlie. Were you at his 50th birthday party?
I think he was past 50 when I met him, so no.
Well, there was a celebration in Arizona. I came down one day. I did some comedy in my day, and I hosted a little roast for him. And Mickey McDermott was there, and I don't remember if Lou Klimchuk was there, but we'll find out next week when we have him on. Charlie Vascellaro's Baseball Emporium.
You got it, Ralph. See you next week.
Kind of cool. Thanks, Charlie. See you then.
Bye.
Everybody out there, keep on keeping on. Adios.